So I keep hearing that X game is terrible, X game is a failure because it didn't launch to a certain number in terms of profit. It didn't hit the threshold to make it a financial success, and therefore the game sucks. That is just not true. You know what is true though? The fact that every single one of our incredible patrons are literally the coolest people on the planet. Thank you guys so much for being active supporters of my channel. I will try my utmost to continue to deliver content that is worthy of your patron status. Also, if you don't already, follow Mrs. Stix, my wife, and I over on Twitter. Let's start off with NeuroCloud. NeuroCloud is a brand new gacha that just released, and admittedly, it turned out to be one of the better gacha games that I have played this year. Now, looking at the total gross earnings and the total number of downloads thus far, specifically for the global version of the game, this is disregarding China. The game has thus far managed to accumulate over 500,000 downloads and roughly $1 million in total earnings. That is impressive. I know it's not nearly as impressive when you compare it to games like Genshin Impact, which is continuing to make $50 to $60 million globally, but for a new game that is very niche, for a game that does not have a large following, that was a pretty good opening. Next, we have Path to Nowhere. Path to Nowhere is actually arguably the best gacha game that I have played this entire year. Well, with regards to it being a new release, Path to Nowhere was actually slammed originally for being a lower quality, uglier Arknights clone, and it is proven that it is so much more than that, with incredible voice acting, fantastic story, and overall just being a great game. And thus far, I will note, by the way, that some of these actually have a visual error here. The earnings list 1,000, but should actually be million. So Path to Nowhere thus far over the last month has garnered over 1.1 million downloads globally and has made $8 million within the first month of its release. Yeah, NeuroCloud only made $1 million. Path to Nowhere has made $8 million. That is a testament to how happy people were, both across iOS and Android, again globally, and how high quality of a game this is. Now, granted, as you can see, there has been a dip in terms of new players, in terms of earnings. That is going to happen to, well, every game except for Genshin Impact. But Path to Nowhere has been a monumental success thus far. Memento Mori is actually a game that I haven't played. I do have this downloaded on my phone. I am in the process of, well, recording it. I know it is a very interesting game. It is very different, and admittedly, the game has half the total downloads of Path to Nowhere, but almost double the earnings at 500,000 total downloads thus far, and over $16 million. That is actually crazy that this game has made so much money. I'll be the first to admit here, I did not expect that to be the case, but the more money that games make, the more popular they are, because people are more willing to spend money in them, and people aren't willing to spend money on a game that just isn't worth it long term. Then, despite the bugs, despite the issues, despite the censorship that is going on with Nikke, 4 million downloads in its first month, $70 million earned. This game earned what Memento Mori made, what Path to Nowhere made, what NeuroCloud made combined, and then more than doubled. How crazy is that? I have been loving Nikke. Nikke is an absolute blast. There are so many people playing this, admittedly not many people streaming it. This game has fantastic voice acting. It has some of the best looking waifus in a gacha release this year. Man, it is just overall such a quality title. I know there are going to be people that disagree with that, and that's more than fine. Everyone is welcome to having their own opinion. Now, I think that this is easily top 2 best gacha releases this year, and the fact that this game made more than any other gacha release this year is a testament to how popular of a game it is. Now, as a comparison here, once again, Genshin globally, not including China, globally makes roughly $50 to $60 million. Nikke made more than that, and is arguably the only gacha that is not Genshin Impact to have made more than $50 million outside of China. Does that not absolutely blow your mind? And then Tower of Fantasy. Tower of Fantasy is admittedly a few months old, so this isn't indicative of the launch month numbers, but even so, like what, 4 or 5 months out, this game is still managing to make over $9 million globally and still managing to amass hundreds of thousands of downloads every single month. Tower of Fantasy, again, has a lot of issues, but at the same time is a gorgeous game, has fantastic combat, a beautiful, massive open world, and is arguably deserving of the earnings that it continues to make. Now, Tower Fantasy did make $34 million in its first month of release, which is a monumental number, a number that nobody anticipated when this game launched. But even so, Goddess of Victory, Nikke, made more money than every other gacha released pretty much this entire year globally combined. That is 10, 20 different gacha games that have all failed to live up to what Nikke has accomplished. Now, these numbers are admittedly for the first month alone and are very evidently going to dip, some by minor, some by substantial margins. So it will be very interesting to see how the drop in revenue is going to factor into where they ultimately end up in the next few months. But I am curious, out of the 5 biggest gacha releases pretty much this entire year, how many of them are you specifically playing? And did you anticipate them earning as much or as little as they ultimately ended up earning? Let me know down in the comments below. Now, if you're not interested in any of these games, you know what, that is perfectly fine. I have 2 different videos on screen right now that are definitely going to be of interest to you. One features an upcoming anime gacha game that is arguably going to be the biggest release of 2023. This is a game you need to check out. The other features a list of every gacha game coming this month, in the month of December 2022. Go check them out.